Live from the fifth largest gold producer in the world, this is the Best Care Anywhere podcast. I am your host, Anthony, and with me are my two friends. Firstly, the true treasure of the Sierra Madre, Jasky. Hello.
Oh, you're going to make me blush.
Oh. And my other friend, with the intelligence of a houseplant, it's Ethan.
I'm actually going to make Jasty blush. Hi, Wilson here for his new line of beauty products.
Oh no. Jasty blow.
I'm scared. Oh.
Anyway, hello both of you. Hi, how are you?
Good.
It's been a hot minute since we recorded because we're traveling, and by we I mean the large one, Wilson. Hello, Wilson. How are your travels?
8 states in as many days, so call that the Wilson Cannonball.
Gross. You did come visit us. It was very nice to see you. You did somehow manage to choose the worst 2 possible days to enter and exit the state. I don't know how you did that, but you did. It was impressive.
Divine providence. You see, I am a calamity unlike any other. I bring and I take just the worst bullshit you can possibly imagine.
Yeah. All right. No, Wilson decided Wilson's trip and crossing the border into California, which means crossing mountains at almost every opportunity, also coincided with the heaviest part of the heaviest winter storm we've gotten this year. So yeah, luckily you found a way through. You went through Tehachapi Pass, right?
Yeah, that's right.
One of the southernmost passes. So you survived. I'm happy. Did you get up to any other shenanigans while you were meandering this way?
Well, I helped a couple of stranded flood victims out. I imbibed in some California legal stuff. Partied hardy with some good buddies. All in all, just 10 out of 10 time.
Nice.
Some real Californication going on. All right.
There you go.
I dream of Californication.
On the note of you helping flood it out people, hi, Anthony here. I'm going to call some people out. Don't drive through standing water. Just don't do it. You don't know how deep it is. And if you stop and really think about the car you're driving, especially you little Toyota Camry people, believe me, I was one of you. Stop and think how low your door jamb is to the ground. I think people forget when they're in a car, it's not waterproof and it doesn't take a whole lot of water. What did they said something on the radio. It's like 2 inches of moving water can like make a car lose traction, and up to 1.5 feet of moving water can carry a car away. It does not take much. Please don't drive through standing water. We care about you.
What about flowing water?
Absolutely not flowing water. No.
Well.
But anyway, that's your public safety announcement for this episode. So yeah. Anything else that I'm missing that has happened? There's been no major calamities since we last spoke that I can think of.
Hang on, I have to check. Is California on fire?
God damn it! I was trying to avoid this. It is. It just is. It has to be.
Is California on fire?
We have the second highest snowpack on record, and it's still on fire. Dear God.
Yes, it is. It is still on fire.
So before we get into today's just beautiful episode, I have to do a little bit of a My Strange Addiction confession. I need to get it out. Yeah. Hi, my name's Anthony.
Hi,
so
Anthony.
I kind of talked with you guys about this a couple weeks ago, or like a week and a half ago. There has been a rash on social media of these little short clips from what is clearly a children's TV show. It is a show called Bluey. I've watched it with my nephew and niece. They enjoy it. And the clips I've seen are very edited down, like the funniest moments. And I gotta be honest with you. I have laughed my ass off at these little clips. And I've done this thing where I'm sitting here in my office and I'm like, damn, these clips are funny. I'm not going to go watch a children's show. No. I'm an adult. This is not what we do. So I'm halfway through season 1. And it might, and I know, like, I'm sure as soon as I say an adult watching a kid show, there are some very, very easy examples we can pull of that not going well. However, this is one of the funniest shows I have ever watched. Without fail, when I've stopped watching an episode, I have a permanent grin on my face. It is genuinely wholesome, good, funny animation. And look, I get it. I'm almost 30. Judge me if you want, but it weirdly has become like, man, it has been a long, stressful day at work. I'm gonna watch an episode of Bluey and laugh. So that I needed to get that off my chest because goddamn, there are some. I get it. Kid shows are dumb, but every once in a while you get one that's like, oh, there's some intelligent people writing this with. Yeah, I don't know. I just kind of wanted to rant about it. Judge me if you want, but yeah.
Well, I guess the really important thing is how does it compare to the likes of Fairly Odd Parents and SpongeBob? Like, how does it stack up?
It's less. This is weird. Okay, we're gonna get into it for a second before we get to MASH.
No.
Sorry, MASH
no.
people. I have no problem with adults watching kids shows when they're clearly made to be watched as a family. Like, I think some good examples of that would be some of the animated Star Wars shows, like Clone Wars, are absolutely engaging for kids, but also evident by us having watched them. They're also entertaining it for older kids or adults.
Mm-hmm.
I would also argue a show that I've gone back and watched from my childhood that I still enjoy watching from now and again. And yeah, some of it's for nostalgia, but it's still well written, is Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Mm-hmm.
This show is clearly written for toddlers, but it's also got some real mature adult moments in it. Like, it's clearly made for, yes, the kids can watch it, but it's also entertaining for adults because they get to see kind of, I don't know. It's hard to explain, and as someone who doesn't have kids, it's weird that I'm explaining this, but it's genuinely hilarious, and the comedic timing and the way they animate stuff is just, it's interesting. I found myself enjoying it, so I need to get that off my chest.
Okay.
That's right,
It's-
Mashiacs. Be on the lookout for the Best Care Anywhere sister podcast discussing Blueys.
Shut up. I hate you. You're making fun of me now, and I'm upset about it.
I'm not making fun of you. I'm all for more podcasts. And honestly,
I would recommend if you're like, Anthony, what the hell are you talking about? Go to Disney Plus. It's on Disney Plus or wherever you acquire video. Just watch an episode. They're 8-minute episodes. They're short. They're little shorts, but they're fucking funny. They are genuine. I mean,
I'm
yes,
gonna be honest.
No, but they're funny as fuck.
I've seen them around. I've seen the clips you're talking about, and I know what you mean. That's all I'm going to say. I understand.
This is a show that at the end of me watching it, I have a grin from ear to ear, and there's nothing like with some of the other shows we watch, you can be like, I like this episode, but I didn't like how they did this thing with this character. This show is literally just dumb fun, and it's nice to just kind of turn your brain off and stop thinking about the greater overarching story of what's happening with Mando and Grogu, or damn, did they really cast this actor as this person in The Last of Us? Just shut your brain off and be like, this is dumb and stupid, and I love it. And it's really well made. So, sorry, I had to go off on a tangent because it's like, I don't know how to be like, hi, adult friends, can I tell you that I'm enjoying this kids TV show? So I figured, what better way to do it than publicly on the internet?
Perfect.
So, yes.
Excellent move.
Yeah, I know it's a MASH podcast, and it's weird to bring that up, but if you are looking for something to just kind of smile at and shut your brain off and enjoy, highly recommend Bluey. It's dumb fun. Good dumb fun. But anyway, on that weird note, let's get into this week's mashup. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I also brought that up because I wanted to pad this episode out because I don't think we're going to spend very long on Major Fred C. Dobbs, Season 1, Episode 22 of MASH. Written by Sid Dorfman, directed by Don Weis, we have seen before and discussed before. This is his third MASH episode. He directed... oh, God, I just forgot it. He directed Cowboy and the last episode we did, Sticky Wicket, and this aired March 11th, 1973. The episode title, first of all, I don't think I've mentioned this to you guys. The episode titles aren't shown on screen for the viewing audience, nor were they. I mean, I don't know if TV guides put the episode titles out, but the episode titles were primarily just for the writers. So they're very creative and interesting episode titles we're going to get, and it's mostly just for the writers of the show. But I think it's nice that they gave each episode its own name as opposed to just calling it, MASH 122 or MASH 121 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the title of this episode, Fred C. Dobbs, is in reference to Humphrey Bogart's character in the movie The Treasure of the Sierra Madre in 1948, which is a movie about some dudes who are down on their luck and decide to go gold mining in Mexico. And then they have to face off bandits and the elements and ultimately each other's greed. So yeah, Treasure. I vaguely remember watching Treasure of the Sierra Madre once and enjoying it, but it's been a long time since I've seen it. So the episode opens, as per usual. I will ask, do you guys skip the intro or do you guys listen to the theme music?
I usually just have it playing while I'm getting stuff ready because it doesn't take that long.
Okay. Because I realized for some reason watching this episode that I've never skipped the intro. I've never skipped ahead through the intro, either on my DVDs or whatever. And I think it's just because the theme song has kind of become like comfort music. Like I enjoy hearing it. So I don't know. I was curious if you guys skipped it or just kind of let it play, but yeah. All right. We start off in surgery where, oh boy. Frank and Hawkeye are working together, which okay, good. They're they made amends in Sticky Wicket, and now they're sharing a patient. Very
and now they're
wholesome.
Best buds.
No, they aren't. Frank's being Frank. He's missing shrapnel fragments. He's being a nuisance. Because he misses a fragment, he blames the nurse Ginger Bayless for not giving him suction, which he would have had to ask for, because if she just did it without him asking, I'm sure he would have yelled at her anyway.
Fired.
Resulting in Frank ultimately making Ginger Bayless cry and calling her an incompetent bungler, which, damn Frank. Great character progression. We get to see you be kind of an interesting character in Sticky Wicket, and you're right back to being
Frank.
Right back to being Frank.
Frank 1.0 is back.
Frank 1.0 is back. Hawkeye and Trapper post-surgery are in one of those moods that they get into, the tired post-surgery, cranky at the war mood. We see Ginger come through upset and crying, and they go to comfort her, claiming that Frank was stolen by gypsies. The gypsies got tired of Frank, so Frank turned him into the police. The police didn't know what to do with them, so gave him back to the gypsies. The gypsies didn't want him. Frank was then given to the bears in the forest, and after a day with Frank, the bears attacked the gypsies. Which, okay, that's a whole chain of events, but more importantly...
And thus Frank was born. But more importantly, it's Hawkeye and Trapper trying to make Ginger feel better and show her that, hey, don't listen to Frank, because his opinion is invalid. Exactly. But I figured since we get to see her on screen prominently, I'd quickly point out that Lieutenant Ginger Bayless is played by Odessa Cleveland. She, again, is on 26 episodes of MASH, so she's around for quite a bit. Yeah. But as far as much like other actors or side actors we've seen on the show, not a lot of other major roles, at least as far as IMDb is telling me. Weirdly, in many of her roles, she is also playing a nurse randomly. In Rich Man, Poor Man, she's a nurse. She is a nurse in The Greatest American Hero. She's a nurse in the show Simon and Simon. And she was a nurse in the loosely MASH-related Trapper John MD show, which I'm sure we will discuss at some point, but not today. Oh, boy.
Yeah, that's a boulevard we are eventually going to go down, but not today.
All right.
So the boys are upset with Frank, as they should be, because he was being a complete
Frank's being a prick.
Frank's being a prick. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they decide it's time to play a little prank on Frank. So while he is sleeping, they bind his entire right arm in plaster with a retractor sticking out the end, which he promptly whacks himself in the face with while trying to swat a fly, which I know it's played for comedy here, but that would really fucking hurt.
Yeah. That would. Yeah.
Ooh, that watching Frank do it now and having worn a cast and knowing how heavy a cast is now, and that cast is looks like it's like double thick.
It's one of the ye olde ones. Yeah.
That would hurt
a
lot.
Stop a bullet.
Yeah. So Frank storms off to Henry, still wearing his hook. Henry is in the dentist's office with random dentist number 1 that we will get throughout the show, played by a gentleman by the name of Harvey J. Goldenberg. And Frank demands, this is it. I'm done. Can't deal with it anymore. I want to transfer to another MASH unit, and I want it now. Henry resists a little bit, but ultimately caves to Frank's demands, which... This is where the plot starts not to... Much like Edwina, this is where the plot starts to fall apart for me. Henry... It is season 1, and they're still figuring out how to write Henry, but we've gotten some really good Henry in the last 6 episodes. And this feels like a major regression for him. I feel like Henry... We've talked about it before. Henry is very... He doesn't want to be in command, but he is, so he will step to the plate when needed. This feels like the other Henry that we occasionally have bounced back to, where it's just like, I'm just trying to keep my head down and get through.
This is Ostrich Henry.
Yeah, this is Ostrich Henry. Like, okay, Frank, I'll transfer you, whatever. Like,
whatever. Not my problem.
Whereas the chief surgeon who Sticky Wicket Henry would have said, Frank, be quiet. Like, this isn't a big deal. Go back to your tent, get the cast off. I don't know that I don't know. This is where the plot starts to go. Like Henry wouldn't just give Frank a transfer because Hawkeye and Trapper did something dumb.
You know, they've done way worse to Frank than just putting his arm in a cast. Like,
and God willing, they will continue to do worse to him. But this is step 1 of the plot doesn't make sense for me, which is part of the reason this episode's kind of to me. But anyway, Henry approves Frank's transfer after Frank describes the many pranks that Hawkeye and Trapper pulled. And I will be honest, in this series of pranks he describes, there's the Princess and the Pea treatment where they stack 12 cots on top of each other. So he was, or however many cots on top of each other. So he's sleeping 12 feet off the ground, which that's fucking hilarious.
That does not look like 12 feet either. That does not look like he's the height of 2 fully grown men off the ground. And
true.
Not even
but
close.
But still,
yeah.
There's the hamburger in the ears, which the camp mutt comes in and tries to eat, which is just gross, and I also kind of love it. However, I'm kind of on Frank's side when it comes to the making him wet himself one. That one's just like, make fun of the man, but don't take the man's dignity, however little of it he has. That one's just a lower blow to me. That's just a personal thing. There's so many other ways you can make Frank look like a fool. Don't make him wet himself. That seems excessively childish.
It seems, yeah. Well, I was about to say, you know, that was always kind of like the well, you know, it's 5th grade and we're having a sleepover. You know, wow, what are we gonna get up to? You don't want to fall asleep first because then people are gonna mess with you. You know, How long has the whole put someone's hand in like lukewarm water and they'll piss themselves? How long has that been like a thing? Because I was kind of surprised to see it in this episode.
That's one of those things where it's like, who was the first person? Like, there's a bunch of these little things when you're a kid.
Symbol. The S symbol.
It's like the
you'd always see at school.
Or like what are the paper things that the girls would have make? The cootie catcher things that you like. Who started that? I love that. Who started it? Where did it, like, was there someone like, in like the 1400s. Oh, Jimothy, come here. Look what I'm going to do to Lord Fimplebottom. I'm going to put his hand in this warm water.
Well, like,
And
how
he's
did they
going to
discover
soil
that?
his pantaloons.
How did someone discover that? Like, hey, you see that sleeping guy over there? I'm gonna put his hand in warm water.
But like,
Why?
it's that
I don't
stuff,
know.
the weird like S symbol you can draw that people were drawing on their notebooks in school, the like jump rope songs when you were like in third grade. Like, when did that start, and how
is the
far
origin?
back does it? Yeah, how far back does some of this go? Like, genuinely, if you stop to think about it, it gets very like philosophical and crazy. But yeah, going back, I do think that making him wet himself and then just sitting there and judging him, it's like, damn, that one's a little cold. That one's a little fucked up because I personally don't recall ever wetting the bed. A sibling of mine did have that problem, and it was just like, man, I feel bad. I wouldn't make fun of someone for that. That's fucked up. But I don't know. It's Hawkeye and Trapper. We love them. Those scamps. But anyway. Ethan, are you alive over there?
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't have said anything that you two have said better than you have, so I decided to just shut up.
I realized Jared and I have been talking like, did we lose Ethan? Did Ethan go to another plane of existence?
I saw Ginger with tears in her eyes, and I developed a hatred so visceral that I could only calm myself by sitting in a quiet silence.
Okay, that's all right, bud. I take it your hatred of Frank is growing by the moment as we go through this episode.
Well,
he's broken the still. He made Ginger cry. He accused Hawkeye of basically killing a man.
I'm gonna be honest, the goofy, middle school sleepover antics that they put him through buys a lot of it back. Like, okay, yeah, there's a little bit lightheartedness to it, but at the end of the day, how dare he break that still?
I love to see your order priorities are the still, then Ginger.
Yeah?
Okay.
What's the famous saying? No, seriously, what is it? I don't know. Anyway,
that's like, in improv where you're supposed to go, like, someone prompts you with something, you go yes and to like keep the skit going. I don't know how to yes and that.
Well,
sweet Jesus.
Best Care Anywhere podcast improv class?
No. We don't need to make this more complicated than it already is.
No. Yeah. No.
So Henry grants the transfer, and he tries to leave it on level ground with Frank, where he's like, Frank, despite everything, I think I'm going to miss you. And then Frank has to be like, well, if you had been better at your job, maybe it wouldn't have come to this. And for Henry's just sitting there like, well, so much for missing you. And then we get right into minor Radar. Just breakneck pace through this episode. Frank's getting transferred, and Radar is walking a mule through camp with all the accoutrement to go gold mining, to which Hawkeye and Trapper accurately point out that he's missed the gold rush by about 100 years. Which, my God, this might be the only time my 5th grade California history is going to come into effect on this episode.
Oh boy, here it comes. Oh boy. It's finally useful.
It's finally useful. That sugar cube mission I built's finally going to mean something.
No, it's not.
That's another thing that boggles my mind. I was sitting in 5th grade learning about California history. I'm like, damn, there's someone in Minnesota right now just bored out of their fucking mind. Learning about Minnesota history. No offense to Minnesota. I don't know anything about Minnesota. It's cold. That's about it.
It doesn't exist.
It's cold.
No, Wyoming doesn't exist.
Canada.
I passed through Wyoming. I have gone through enough fucking Wyoming potholes to know that Wyoming exists, and I hate it.
All right. So, Radar, it just started pouring rain out here. Okay, anyway. Radar claims that he can find gold in Korea because Korea is the 5th largest gold producing state or country. And he demonstrates this by presenting Hawkeye and Trapper with gold. And oh my God.
Oh, Radar. Oh, Radar, my sweet child.
The number of times that other kids I knew, or God forbid, I did have, like, in Lilo and Stitch, there's like that deleted scene or the scenes where like she's interacting with the tourists and they're like, hey kid, which way to the beach? And she deliberately points the wrong way. And they're like, my halo, as they drive. Like, I've had that moment, but with like people who aren't from California thinking they found gold and it's really pyrite. And I'm just
I've
like,
done that. I've done that
yep,
exact
that's
thing.
gold. There, sweet child.
Not with pyrite, just pointed them in the wrong direction. It's fun.
I like to do that when I'm in Tahoe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. When they're very clearly from SoCal or the Bay Area.
Or
Yo,
better
which
yet,
way's the
not even
lake?
from lake, clearly visible in the background, points up the mountain.
Yep.
And they drive that way. But anyway, yeah. So Radar has discovered pyrite, and for the uneducated, I feel like Jared, you might be the most appropriate person. Pyrite versus gold. Is that a field of expertise, or are you more biological nature, not geological nature?
One's a shiny rock, and one's a shiny rock that people care about.
Thank you. I knew the science side of the MASH podcast always has my back. Essentially,
hey, we might
pyrite
have no budget, but hey, we know things.
Pyrite is a mineral, golden in color. Takes a very unique kind of crystally looking structure sometimes, but
somewhat cubey sometimes.
Somewhat cubey, and that's the big distinguisher from gold. Gold is just kind of like a shiny rock that is kind of malleable. That's why you always see people biting it, because it's slightly soft. Pyrite is hard. It's a crystal. It is golden in color and shiny, but it is not gold.
Also known as fool's gold. So now Radar is legitimately a fool, and so is Frank.
Don't call Radar a fool, because Trapper calls him a houseplant later, and I'm very angry about that. We stan Radar. This I don't know what fucking doppelganger of Radar we got in this episode, but we stan Radar.
He got excited because he thought
Where
he
did he
found
get a
gold.
horse
He made
in
it
South
big.
Korea?
Don't ask questions.
Don't ask questions. So they burst Radar's bubble and say, you found pyrite, you found fool's gold, Radar. Frank comes up and informs them that I have been transferred. I don't have to deal with you two anymore. While he's doing this, Radar's mule eats the flowers, which this might be the only good, I don't want to say the only good joke. This might be the best bit of visual comedy in the entire episode.
It's pretty funny.
They realize Frank is going to go say his flowery, pun intended, goodbye to Margaret. And they're like, well, we can't miss a chance to take advantage of this. So Frank goes to Margaret, presents her with the long-stemmed stems, and proceeds to tell Margaret he's leaving her, and thus ensues the sappy romance. Frank hugs Margaret tight, to which Margaret responds, Frank, you're crushing my mums. Which is a line that exists.
Frank.
And I love it. Frank, you're crushing my mums. Frank comments that I'll write every day faithfully, just like I do my wife. Which, don't say the W word, Frank. Don't say the W word.
He had one job, Frank. One job.
You have one. Yeah, Frank, you fucking moron. Which I do love if you catch it on the recording. Margaret, what are you doing? Stop, that's government property. Crash. Oh. So later, as Frank is packing, he does not want to talk to Trapper Hawkeye because as of this moment, you two are strangers and I don't want to talk to you. He's going back to his country club and his yacht, and Hawkeye and Trapper will be ship's doctors on a garbage scow somewhere. And Hawkeye and Trapper just kind of roll their eyes at this and start listening to their favorite soap opera, Just Plain MacArthur, which is
of course, the recording of Frank and Margaret, which Frank starts to make fun of for being wishy-washy nonsense until he realizes that it is him and Margaret. And then he is, I would say, justifiably angry because as ridiculous as Frank and Margaret are, that is, personal private time.
Mm-hmm.
Little does Frank also know it is being broadcast to the entire camp. Which, again, it's a choice to broadcast someone's intimate personal moments to all of their coworkers.
I would say that this is entirely unacceptable behavior on Trapper and Hawkeye's part if it wasn't Frank and Hot Lips. Now, I do feel a little bad about Hot Lips being humiliated like that. She didn't do anything this time. Don't humiliate her like that. Frank, however, no problem with that. No, yeah, do that whatever you want. Like, that's fine.
Oh no.
But
but I love
Frank had it coming. Hot Lips didn't this time.
I do love the little clips we get as they're talking of people reacting to their conversation throughout camp. There's the nurse and the soldier making out behind a tent, and it's, oh, Margaret, there's so much to do and so little time. And the soldier looks up at the PA speaker and just gives the okay.
So yeah.
There's, oh my gosh, I just realized, you ever realize you forgot to do something long time ago and you the opportunity's missed and now you can't act upon it? I just had that realization about last week's episode, but we're moving on.
Right.
We get the soldier peeling potatoes, and Margaret says, or Frank and Margaret are lamenting about how they met in the army and even beautiful things can happen in the army, to which the bucket of potato peelings is thrown at the PA speaker in response. And this has clearly upset Margaret as she storms through the compound. And we know where she stormed off to, because the next scene we see Henry berating Hawkeye and Trapper for not only causing Frank to want to transfer out, but also Margaret.
Oh.
Now, this is step 2 of where the plot makes no sense. Why did you, if Frank leaving, if losing a somewhat competent doctor is a problem, why did you give Frank a transfer? I will justify Henry in losing Margaret is solely because of Hawkeye and Trapper doing something that is above reproach. So I don't blame Margaret for wanting to leave, because it's kind of screwed up of them to be airing her dirty laundry, so to speak.
Yeah.
But even Henry says losing the doctor, and as we're going to see, it might take a while to get replacements for Frank and Margaret. Why would Henry have approved Frank's transfer in the first place if he knew it was going to be this big of an issue? But anyway, I digress. So Hawkeye and Trapper get lambasted by Henry. They kind of realize, or they kind of jump back at Henry saying like, okay, whatever, it's Frank and Burns. What's the big deal? What are you going to do about it? And Henry makes a threat like, oh, he's going to make a point with this, which good on Henry, but also this is kind of Henry's fault a little bit too for giving Frank a transfer. But anyway.
Well, I just like McLean Stevens channeling his inner Strother Martin. Did either of you guys see do either of you remember Cool Hand Luke?
Vaguely. I've seen it a couple times, but not recently.
For our audience who does, I promise you, if you look in those eyes when he says, "I'm gonna do more than that," and you think back to the captain in any of his scenes, well, what we have here is a failure to communicate. You can't tell me you don't know what I'm talking about.
I don't.
Okay, I'm vaguely remembering that. Okay, I see I get the similarity. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So Hawkeye and Trapper are woken at the butt crack of dawn the next day by Radar, who is still carrying his miner's pick. And he's informing them that, well, since Frank and Hot Lips are no longer on duty and being transferred out, someone needs to take over their duties. And until such time that the Colonel can find replacements, that is Hawkeye and Trapper. And Radar gets a little bit of a,
I don't want to say piece of shit moment, but he gets to be a little cheeky and say, based on the way the army works, that could be about 6 months. And he kind of laughs at them and gets chased out, which, okay, fair to Radar. So Hawkeye and Trapper are realizing maybe we went too far this time. And they are now going to devise a plan to keep Frank and Margaret here, which is step 3 of where the plot makes no sense. Because overworked as they're about to become, I do not see any universe where Hawkeye and Trapper willingly keep Frank in camp. I cannot, if there's a chance to get rid of Major Burns, I don't see why they would stop themselves at getting rid of Major Burns.
Yeah.
I could see, I get part of it, like, yeah, it's Frank is still he's a piece of shit, but he's still somewhat useful and a competent-ish doctor, so he's better than nothing, but still, it's Frank. If you don't like the man that much and he's leaving, why are you trying to, whatever. It just doesn't work for me. It boggles my mind a little bit, but anyway. Hawkeye and Trapper are thinking of a way to keep Frank in camp, and Hawkeye, while scraping gunk off his boot with a quarter, realizes Frank loves money. And Radar claims to have found gold in Korea. Ergo, if we can trick Frank into thinking he can get rich here, he won't go. Which
he will never leave.
He will never leave. Yep.
Uh-huh.
So they devise a plan to trick Frank into thinking they are mining for gold. Conveniently, there's a dentist in camp for this one episode.
Very
and
convenient.
a dentist who needs to make fillings would have gold in his possession. So they go and steal They steal Henry's gold filling and essentially through bluff and guile trick Frank into believing there's gold in Korea. We get a series of little scenes of them tricking Frank into thinking he overheard a secret conversation of theirs. Frank going out with Margaret to try to see if he can find a gold nugget, which he finds a clearly painted rock while walking with Margaret. He steals Radar's gold mining supplies while he's sleeping, to which he also notices Radar sleeps with a teddy bear. Doesn't question it and leaves. And I will say, one of my favorite little lines from Radar in this episode is as Frank is leaving, he pats his bear on the chest and goes, "It's okay, bad man gone." Oh, Radar. We love Radar.
Oh, Radar.
And Frank digs a gigantic pit, which we have officially entered into what the hell's happening territory. Frank digs like a 4-foot deep by 6-foot diameter hole. And at the bottom of that hole finds another clearly painted gold rock, which means in order to trick Frank into believing there's gold in Korea, Hawkeye and Trapper dug a 4x6 hole, put a bunch of gold rocks in it, refilled that hole, put more gold rocks on top of it to encourage Frank to dig there. My disbelief is no longer suspended.
They are committed to the bit.
They are committed to the bit. They are committed to the bit. And we're going to see in about 5 or 6 episodes, and once we get into season 2, we're going to see an episode where they need to pull a stunt and they are able to get materials for it by requisitioning and bluffing and guiling people, and it makes sense. Where the hell did they get all this gold paint? I don't think the army paint needs gold paint for anything. Where are they getting it? I don't know. It's a mystery. But Frank is convinced he's found gold. He is giddy and excited. He goes to Henry's tent in the middle of the night, all dirty. And I love that Henry looks at him and goes, "What happened to you?" "Oh, I fell down." "How many times?" Just, always good. Frank is pleading with Henry, "Please undo my transfer." Henry's saying, "Do you know how much work it was to get you that transfer?" And in the process of this discussion, Frank accidentally destroys Henry's temporary filling, which is the tipping point for Henry to just be like, "Are you sure you don't want that transfer? Good, because you're not getting it now." which is what Frank wants. So hooray for Frank. He's staying at MASH.
Frank.
Yay, Frank. Which he now needs to go explain to Margaret that he's not leaving, so she needs to cancel her transfer. She's upset because she's already said goodbye to the nurses. They got her a lovely parting gift that they spent at least $5 on, which, given MASH's conversion rates, is like $50. So, a meaningful gift.
Yeah.
Margaret doesn't understand what's happening. Frank explains, gold, I'm going to be rich. We're going to be rich. And Margaret immediately, as soon as he says Hawkeye and Trapper found gold, she's like, wait a minute, stop, pause, whoa. Who? She immediately picks up on that this is a scam. But Frank is convinced, leads her out into the compound where Radar is walking the mule again. But this time the mule is decked out in all things bedazzled in golden. Golden shovels, golden harness, golden saddle, golden. The mule is dripped out. And I love, if you watch this scene, I don't know what they did. You can kind of see on like the shovel handle, they did something. But they did some sort of practical effect, either little glass chips or something to get
They made it sparkle. Yeah.
They made the tool sparkle really well. Like I know it's just some
Riz.
I know it's just some probably yep, he's at it. It's probably like some glass chips or some like little like disco ball glass reflective squares. But I'm always impressed with the practical effects on this show. Because there's one as the horse is walking where it just perfectly does. It's so weirdly cinematic. It's like the perfect, like 4-point star twinkle as the horse walks by. It's so perfectly done. But Margaret and Frank run out to the riverbank. There's a giant pile of golden rocks that wasn't there before, and as Frank is freaking out and excited that there's so much gold, the PA announcer replies, "Attention all personnel, tonight's double feature movie is Greed," which is a 1924 movie about 3 lottery winners and the unfortunate circumstances that follow because of course, greed and infighting amongst the 3 lottery winners.
Mm-hmm.
And The Major Was a Minor, which is a play on a movie called The Major and the Minor that came out in 1942. But both these movies are Major Was a Minor starring Frank, There Goes My Transfer Burns. And as this is happening, you see that the tree is golden. The PA speaker is golden.
Everything is golden in Korea.
Everything is golden. And Margaret is just looking at Frank and sits on the rock like, you fucking idiot.
See, this is one of the episodes that absolutely convinces me if Frank was alive today and was in the military, he would be an NFT bro. He would absolutely be an NFT bro. He would be all about crypto. He's just so gullible.
We're rich, Margaret. I don't understand, Frank. It's the monkeys, Margaret.
The monkeys,
look at all these
Margaret.
NFTs.
They're non-fungible tokens, Margaret.
Oh no, I hate it. It's Margaret, I'm into Bitcoin. Oh no.
Bitcoin? What's that? What do you see?
Oh God, that's gross and I hate it. But yes. And just to rub salt on the wound, and I know they just washed it off and painted it over when they were done, but there's a list of props in my head that I would love to kind of like a Where Are They Now props. I want to know where the golden Jeep, what happened to the golden Jeep.
Right. What happened to the golden Jeep?
Clearly they painted it and used it again, but goddamn, would that not be the prop of all time to have for MASH?
Resident car guy of the podcast here. I was a dumb high schooler once, and I did some fucked up shit. And I gotta tell you, that is like a really fucking good rattle can job, because I know they just got that,
Dude,
like it's a really good job. I don't think I've seen a better spray paint job.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie, and you guys can be honest with me if this is a little trashy. I have a Toyota pickup, Toyota,
Yes.
hang on. Toyotas are known for being cosmetically shit. Like the paint chips quickly on them, at least the older Toyotas. Because I had a Camry
Careful.
too that did the same. Hang on.
Let him
Older.
land.
Older. This is a 2003 Toyota pickup, and I drove a 98 Toyota Camry. The paint chips, the plastic inside yellows quickly. You know, my radio column's falling apart. One of the things I have loosely been considering doing recently is rattle canning that pickup. I've never done it before. But part of me is like, a rattle can job would look better to me than the flaking clear coat does now. Is that trashy on a 2003 Toyota Tundra? And yes, I know it is partially dependent on what color I choose.
On a Tundra? Yes.
Mm-hmm. It's trashy on a Tundra. Oh. All right.
Don't disrespect the V8 like that.
I'm sorry, not a Tundra, a Tacoma.
Now Tacoma.
My little, yeah.
I'll let Ethan take this one.
Jared, I think you're doing great.
Don't rattle can my pickup is what I'm getting from this.
Yes, that is what you're
Now,
getting from.
What
don't
if
do
I
it.
did metallic gold?
Major Riz.
All right, I'm picking up the negative vibes. I am respecting the negative vibes.
Can you feel the aura I'm putting out from several states away? Can you feel the energy?
Would you genuinely be
corn
upset
coming
if
through
I
the
rattle
sound.
canned my?
Yeah.
How upset genuinely would you be if I sent you a picture of my truck and it was dark, like tastefully good? It was a good rattle can job, but it was rattle canned.
No, I would be so proud of you. I would think it's fucking awesome.
Aww.
Dead serious.
I
That takes
probably-
balls.
I probably won't, honestly, but damn, I'm stuck in this place of my truck looks like shit and I don't want it to look like shit, but I also can't afford / don't want to pay the amount of money it would take to actually have it properly painted. Right? Like that, in the grand scheme of things, I shouldn't be spending money to paint the truck. However, I want the truck to look nicer. I'm stuck in that dichotomy. So anyway. But yeah, the golden Jeep. I have it up on my monitor now, and goddamn, it's so. This is the moment where the plot's like, where did they get the gold paint? Why did they paint a Jeep gold? Whose idea was this? They literally just painted that Jeep just to fuck with Frank, and I kind of love it. So not post credit scene, but end of the episode scene. Frank and Margaret are angry with Hawkeye and Trapper for tricking Frank, but hey, it is what it is. They make amends and shake hands. And of course, Hawkeye has to go in for the passionate necking of Frank. And we end the scene, fade to black, as casual workplace sexual harassment occurs. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was Major Fred C. Dobbs. Woohoo.
Woohoo.
Yay and verily. So yeah, I it's no secret. I don't. This typically gets into people's least favorite episodes lists, which I've been going on kind of a dive on Reddit and Facebook of people's least favorite episodes comments. And I'm always surprised by, there are similar ones that pop up frequently, but it's also always so varied that it's like, there's no true one shittiest episode of MASH. There are some that are worse than others, and unfortunately, I think this is one of them. It's just not, something about it just doesn't click. The plot doesn't make sense. It's somewhat funny, but it's not very funny. I don't know. What did you guys think of Major Fred C. Dobbs?
Oh, it's perfectly meh. But I'm also biased because this is one of the few episodes I had on DVD. It was like labeled like MASH episode number 5 or whatever. So I grew up watching this episode, so I'm a little biased.
Really?
Yeah.
See, okay, that's the
I
thing.
never knew what it was called. I just knew it was the episode where Frank finds gold.
The episode where Frank finds gold.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, because this is something that I ran into when looking at other people's like shitty episodes. Like, for example, someone said Edwina's one of the worst episodes, which Arguably, yep, it is, according to our statistics. But someone commented under that, I agree that Edwina isn't good, but one of the first episodes of MASH I remember watching was Edwina, and it was with my grandfather, and he liked MASH and was in the service and found the episode really funny, so I have positive memories of this episode. So it's like, it's subjective to each person, but yeah, so despite it not being a great episode, you've seen it before, therefore it, you recognize it, and it resonates. I say resonates. You recognize it, and it's familiar. But
it absolutely resonates within me.
Yes. Wilson, what about you? What did you think of the episode?
If I never see it again, I'll be just fine with that. I didn't dislike it, but I don't think I'm ever going to think of anything from this episode except maybe the gold Jeep.
We did kind of gloss over it, but I did want to mention Hawkeye mentions when he's starting to formulate the plan to get Frank, to stay. He mentions that, Radar's gold frenzy might be the way to get Frank to stay. And Trapper responds with, Radar, he has the IQ of a houseplant. What the fuck, Trapper? That's fucking rude. Like, he's supposed to be a naive Iowa farm boy, but that's just fucking mean to someone that you will later go on to refer to as a son. What the fuck? I thought that was unnecessarily mean of Trapper, but hey, that's me.
Just Trapper things.
Just Trapper things. But anyway, so before we get to the audience rating, what would you rate Major Fred C. Dobbs? Where does it rate for you?
I would give it a 3 out of 5.
Okay.
Meh.
Additional note of just meh.
I'm going a perfect 2.5 out of 5. Okay.
Right in the middle of our grading scale. Alrighty.
Yeah.
I'm looking at because I have the chart of all already. I'm looking at my previous ratings.
That's cheating.
I would say it yes and no.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm using it as a metric of, do I think it's worse than Edwina? I would argue no. I think Edwina is just I think the cringiness of Edwina gives it that extra ugh. I would put it on par with one of the other episodes of this season I didn't like, so I will match that rating. I'm going to say it's a solid 2 for me. It's just, and again, that's going back to I'm kind of grading on a curve because I know what's coming down the pipeline later, so I have a metric to judge it against. I think for MASH, it's a little below average. And it's also partly that we came off a solid 8 episode run of just good banger episodes, and this one's just kind of what happened? Where'd the writing team go this week? What were they doing? But with that being said, audience ratings. We love the audience ratings. I'm going to scroll down because somehow, in the last 2 episodes we recorded, we missed Chief Smash Forever. I think just by my sheer incompetence, we somehow missed reading Chief Smash Forever, and he felt as though we were shunning him for some undisclosed
we would never
crimes he has committed. So I'm going to start with Chief Smash Forever. He says 5 out of 5 for the sheer amount of gold, but a 2.5 out of 5 for the episode overall. This may be one of the worst episode. Exactly. There's gold in this episode. This may be one of the worst plot Smash has come up with, but does have some funny moments here and there. It's Smash, so I'll watch, but never search it out. And even the cast, including Alan Alda, thought it was one of the worst episodes. That is true. Alan Alda said this is probably one of their worst episodes, just because it doesn't really go anywhere. So yeah. Let's see. Who else do we have here? We have Mark Boomer says he was more upset that someone wrote Trapper to say Radar has the intelligence of a houseplant. Yeah. Chad Smith says 2.5 out of 5 feels like a rejected script for Green Acres or Gilligan's Island. This lightsaber kills fascists. Our good friend Mike Jameson says it's not even that it's a bad episode. It's just so broad and over the top with Frank's greediness and the various gold painted items. It just strains the show's credibility. Yeah. 2.75 from Donny Deer 111. A bit overhated in his opinion. Not a bad episode. It's an enjoyable but not noteworthy episode. 3 out of 5 from Lightsaber Kills Fascists. 2 out of 4 from Scott Harris. And a very specific Dean Bear, 2.37164 out of 5. And he says, not as bad as Edwina or a future episode called Hawkeye, but still not great. Oh, yeah. Darren Prim. Darren, I know this isn't a good episode, but we need to talk, Darren. Darren. Darren gave it a half star out of 5. My brother
man personally hates this episode.
I don't know what this episode did to hurt you, but I respect the honesty. And free jazz at high noon, which might be the second best Twitter handle I've seen.
Oh yeah,
I like that. Free jazz at high noon. It sounds like a promise and or a threat. He says 2.7. It has a little of the series' trademark charm and wit. But it's still not, still doesn't meet the standards that MASH will rise to, essentially, is what he's saying. And 2.5 out of 5 from Big Beard Booty Daddy. Not as bad as, and it's skippable as Edwina, but it's not very good. Also has some real head-scratching moments. Hawkeye and Trapper and Varys, Frank and Margaret so bad they want to leave, but then all is forgiven by the end, ? So, yeah, that's some of the audience opinions. I will say, we are getting to the point where I may not be able to read all of the audience opinions at the end of the episode. Really? We're getting to the point where enough people are commenting that it's like, I want to read all of them.
We're becoming too successful.
No. Thank you guys. That's fucking awesome.
Genuinely, though, I do want to point out I have noticed an uptick in all the various analytics of more people watching and listening, or more people following the Twitter or Instagram and stuff. Thank you. I appreciate that. I will also pose a question if you want to DM the Twitter account or leave a comment somewhere. Does anyone use Reddit? Because technically there is a Reddit handle under the podcast's name, but I haven't used it because I don't know what the rules on certain subreddits are about self-promotion. It's weird. I also don't want to be like, hi, go to the MASH subreddit and tell them about our podcast, because that also feels gross and weird. Like, yeah. I don't know. Share the podcast. Tell people about the podcast. If you use Reddit, share it there, because I don't know how to share it there without looking like I'm clout chasing, and I don't want to do that.
It's a Frank thing to do.
It's a very Frank thing to do. A couple of notes before we get out of here, because we are on a very weird schedule. We're recording this episode the Thursday before it releases, which is a little late, and we're going to be recording. Vibes. Yeah, we're going to be recording the next episode, which is Ceasefire, much earlier than we normally do. Actually, not much earlier. Much earlier, because I'm going to be gone the first week of April, and I'll be getting back from a camping trip the day I'm supposed to upload it, so I have to have it ready beforehand. So I'm going to say this. Right now, as you're listening to this episode, the next episode tweet asking for your guys' ratings, the tweet, Instagram, basically whatever post you see normally is going to be up, so go rate Ceasefire. Also, we are getting to the end of season 1, which means if you have come to the podcast late, if you started listening when we were already about halfway through the season, go back, listen to and watch the previous episodes of MASH and the podcast, and make sure you give us your ratings for the episodes, because I will tally ratings for previous episodes up until we do the end of the season 1 kind of wrap-up episode. And that's when we're going to discuss, like, what episode did we all rank high? What episode did we all rank low? And kind of discuss our thoughts on season 1. So you have time to do that. But once we're done talking about season 1, we're done talking about season 1. I'm not gonna keep adding to season 1 rankings 3 years from now. That's just too much. So Get your ratings in. Look for the various announcements and tweets for the last 2 episodes of the season, and us asking for your thoughts on season 1. if you do leave a comment rating a previous episode we talked about, don't just put, I give this episode I just watched a 2.5 out of 5 because Hawkeye and Trapper were being meanies. Please tell me what episode it was so I know where to put that rating. It could or make it so obvious by your description of what happened in the episode. I need to know what to do with your numbers. Please don't waste your vote. Your vote's important. But yeah, that's all I got. We're getting to the end of season 1. I'm excited. We've been doing this about a year. I can't believe it. Somehow my friends are still talking to me. It's wonderful. And I'll just double down and say, share the podcast. If you like it and are enjoying it, share it with a friend. Do what I did. Go find a friend who is innocently living their life and say, hey, do you want to watch a new TV show? And they're going to say, yeah, sure. And you're going to rope them in. You're going to grab them by the throat and make them watch this show and then make them listen to this podcast. Please do it.
And I will say on behalf of Jared and myself, it's awesome that we're seeing an uptick. And of course, that's all thanks to Anthony, because in case it wasn't abundantly clear, he's in charge of the recording and the editing and all of the stuff that actually matters. All that he asks in return is that we sit our butts down here for an hour or two each week and bullshit about a show.
Thank you, Ethan. You just made me realize something. I know I'm dragging the end of this episode out saying stuff. You just reminded me of something that you two aren't going to resonate with because, unfortunately, you do not know of this person yet. For those of you who listen to MASH Matters or follow MASH Matters podcast on the internet, you probably already have heard about this. But for those who have not, they put out a call saying that someone needs a little bit of cheering up and well wishes. An actress from MASH named Eileen Saki has unfortunately been diagnosed with cancer. If you're not familiar with who Eileen Saki is, I don't think we've been to Rosie's Bar yet in season 1. So. Rosie's Bar, for those of you who are new to MASH, is the Korean establishment across the road from the camp that is one of the many places to acquire alcohol in the vicinity. And in the later seasons, the owner and operator of the bar, the titular Rosie, is played by Eileen Saki, and she is a hoot. Unfortunately, she has been diagnosed with cancer. Her chemo treatments begin this week, and MASH Matters put out a tweet encouraging people to send an email with well wishes to Eileen. And a lot of people have already. I plan to because she is a joy. That email is sendinglovetoRosie@gmail.com. And those will get shared with her and her husband and all that jazz. So nice. Go send her. She wasn't a big character on MASH, and Lord knows we've lost so many of the MASH cast already that sadly we're getting to that time in the show's history where we're gonna see no more cast members. So when something like this happens, it's like, spread the love. Go give her some love. Let her know that you enjoyed her performance and hope she is doing well. So yeah, thank you for reminding me of that. You said the word matters, and it made me think of MASH Matters, and you reminded me of the post. You unintentionally did a good. Congratulations.
Yay.
All right. So I think that's it. Am I forgetting anything? Is there anything y'all want to say? You want to plead for someone to come rescue you from my clutches? Anything? No?
Shave your corneas.
Don't.
Amen.
No. That's such an old meme. Stop it.
I don't care. It's going
on.
on.
It was done? No, I'm bringing it back, baby.
Oh no. I'll save it for another time. With that, the next episode is Ceasefire. Go and watch it. I'll also say that once we're done with season 1, there will be a short hiatus, and we're going to watch the MASH movie, the original motion picture, between season 1 and 2. So if you don't have access to it, acquire access to it. I'm pretty sure it's on Amazon, Hulu, YouTube to rent or buy, or if you sail under a black flag, you can go do that too. No judgment. But other than that, that's all I got. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
The time has come for us to say sayonara.